Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Eddie Pauline, and I serve as the Director of Economic Engagement for Ohio State's Corporate Engagement Office. We are here today to celebrate 20 years of partnership between Honda and Ohio State. It's a special day, and our panelists will talk about the specifics that capture that partnership. Over the last 20 years, much progress has been made to advance the partnership, and we look forward to a robust discussion on what that means for our regional economy. Today, we have the pleasure of welcoming Lieutenant Governor Jon Husted, who will provide some opening remarks, and then we'll get into our discussion. Before we get started, let me introduce Lieutenant Governor Husted and have him kick us off. Thank you.
Great, thank you. It's a pleasure to join the group today for the 20th anniversary of the Honda Ohio State partnership that formed as a result of the establishment and evolution of the Transportation Research Center. If you've never been to the Transportation Research Center, you're missing out. It's one of the coolest places to visit in Ohio. I know that a couple of years ago, I went up and took a tour and then went 180 miles an hour around the track in an Acura NSX. Just an amazing experience, and then was back up there for the demonstration project of all of the wonderful things that they're doing with automated driver assist and automated driving systems. Just a great place for research and development, a private and public partnership that Honda and Ohio State and the state of Ohio have been very supportive of to all of our benefit. That's the great thing about a partnership. A partnership is only great when everyone benefits. All of us have benefited from this partnership, and the people of Ohio have benefited from this. People who have lives been saved due to the safety research that's gone on there. You name it. There's a lot of wonderful things that have changed life for the better thanks to that partnership. I might mention that October is Manufacturing Month. Manufacturing is an incredibly important part of Ohio's economy. Just a few facts here. We're the third largest state in the nation in terms of producing manufacturing. $100 billion of manufactured goods annually are produced in the state of Ohio, an amazing number. That supports 700,000 Ohio jobs, nearly 13% of our total employment. And manufacturing will continue to be important to our state, particularly as we look to onshore and reshore more manufacturing production for the safety and security of the future of our nation, to provide a stable environment for businesses to operate, to make sure that America continues to be a leading innovator with our partners like Honda from around the world who have found that this collaboration works in everybody's interest. So let me just congratulate Ohio State and Honda for the great partnership. You've shown how it can be done. You have done great things over the last 20 years, and I know from my recent visits that even 5 years from now, there's going to be a lot more that we're going to be able to say that has come from this wonderful partnership. Congratulations, and thank you for all that you all do.
Lieutenant Governor, thank you for your support of the business community, higher education, and your leadership for Ohio during this challenging time. We appreciate all that you do. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So I want to officially welcome our guests today. We have some in-person guests, which is made up of our panel and some other leaders here at the Honda Heritage Center. We have a robust virtual audience that includes many community leaders, economic leaders, and business leaders, Ohio State alumni, and Honda associates. We look forward to our conversation and hope you learn a number of different things about this dynamic partnership. Our goal today is to have you all think differently about this partnership and what it means for the state of Ohio. How $2 billion organizations can work together efficiently to make such a great impact. It has created countless of opportunities for a variety of different stakeholders, and we believe fuels innovation in Ohio for the foreseeable future. Our panelists will highlight some of the specific elements of the partnership and talk amongst each other about what this means for our state. So to begin, we'll introduce our panelists. We're honored today to have Christina Johnson, who serves as president of The Ohio State University, and I might add, has already taken the crown of having the coolest shoes of any Ohio State president. We have David Williams, who serves as the dean of our College of Engineering, Deb Shear, managing director of One Columbus, Brett Rubinek of TRC, and Rick Shostak of Honda. Thank you all for joining us today. Dr. Johnson, you've spent the morning here at Honda. Sounds like you saw a lot. I'm hoping you might be able to reflect on what you saw here today and talk a little bit about why many people believe this is sort of the ideal university-industry partnership.
Well, thank you, Eddie. And first of all, let me thank Honda and the partnership here for organizing this celebration. I mean, it's really phenomenal. 20 years, that takes a lot of vision, a lot of foresight, and a great investment. I'd also like to thank Governor DeWine and Lieutenant Governor John Husted for their partnership and support of what a successful relationship requires, and that's an ecosystem, and an ecosystem of support for the automotive industry. I think the unique thing about this partnership is it's so comprehensive. It involves research. I got a chance to see the R&D facility. It involves manufacturing and the opportunity for our students to have, hands-on experience with putting what they're learning in the classroom to work, and then philanthropy. Again, that long-term vision of 20 years ago that people could look at where we'd be today. And I was just admiring all these awards for innovation behind us, and we're just so pleased to be part of that. And I'm excited about what the next 20 years is going to look like.
Great, thank you. Dean Williams, you're probably one of the most intimately involved Ohio State representatives in this partnership. Can you talk a little bit more about what this partnership means for Ohio State and the region?
Certainly, Eddie. The connection between Honda and the College of Engineering goes back to 1988, and that was the time when the state of Ohio's sale of the land for the Transportation Research Center to Honda of America Manufacturing was carried out, and $6 million of that sale came to the College of Engineering to establish a Transportation Research Endowment Fund. The Transportation Research Center's revenues also come to Ohio State College of Engineering to fund other endowments, as you'll hear. Over the intervening 30 and more years, that endowment has grown to over $54 million, and this funds research professors, it funds student projects, it funds the Society for Women Engineering, the National Society of Black Engineers, and many other student operations in the College of Engineering. Honda's an integral partner, as President Johnson noted, in all aspects of the College of Engineering and across the university, from the K through 12 system through which our students come, to supporting undergraduate research, internships, co-ops, and also capstone design courses. And of course, many millions of dollars in research for graduate students and professors. And in turn, our professors work with Honda and TRC to advance their particular missions. I'm particularly honored that Rick Shostak is on the College of Engineering's External Advisory Council, and Frank Pollack is on my own kitchen cabinet. Rick and Frank together have been extraordinary supporters of the College of Engineering for many, many years, and I thank them and all of Honda for what they do for the College of Engineering, our students, our faculty, and our staff.
Great, thanks, Dave. Deb, we obviously know that these two organizations collectively have a huge impact on the regional economy. So from an economic development standpoint, can you talk a little bit more about how that economic impact plays out across the region?
Sure, thanks, Eddie. You know, from the first meeting that took place between Governor James Rhodes and Mr. Honda in the 1970s, and when that resulted in the establishment of the American Honda motorcycle plant that was located here in Marysville, then shortly thereafter, the Marysville Auto Plant was established in 1982. And these really set the precedent for the collaborative partnership early on. Honda's economic impact in the region, the supplier ecosystem, and employment is really noteworthy. Honda has invested more than $11 billion in its Ohio operations since 1979. They employ 13,000 associates in Ohio. Purchases have grown to $10 billion annually from more than 170 Ohio parts suppliers. With several hundred facilities across Ohio. 150 of those facilities are located right here in the Columbus region. It's also estimated that the overall employment of the supplier base is greater than 55,000 Ohioans. And not only is it a direct economic benefit, but over the last 40 years, Honda has contributed more than $100 million to Ohio charitable organizations. It's a great, great partnership.
Great. Thanks, Deb. We've mentioned TRC a few times, and we have TRC's leader here today. Although we're celebrating 20 years of Ohio State and Honda working together, both of those organizations have worked with TRC for more than 40 years. So Brett, can you talk about how that 40-year relationship has really impacted the industry and our relationship moving forward?
Eddie, absolutely. So for nearly 50 years, TRC has had the benefit of sitting at the intersection, if you will, of government, academia, and industry, as all three have worked to advance safety and technology that sometimes we take advantage of and take for granted in our daily commutes. And those numerous technological developments first saw the light of day at TRC. Now, as we transition the conversation to mobility and the technologies of tomorrow and all of the promises that come along with that, I fully expect that TRC will be in the center of that conversation as well.
Great. And Rick, last but not least, we've talked about the impact that the relationship has had on Ohio State, on the economy, TRC. What about the key partner, Honda? What does this relationship mean to your organization?
Well, thanks, Eddie. You know, first and foremost, I want to recognize and congratulate Dr. Johnson, the brand new president of The Ohio State University. It's wonderful. And it means so much to us, Dr. Johnson, all of us at Honda, that you're here today. Just weeks into your tenure, and here you are having a look-see at our operations and so forth. It really means a lot to us at Honda. You know, anytime you can partner with a leading educational institution, a world-class educational institution, it's good for business, and that's how Honda views this partnership. When we look at the partnership, we think about both research and people. So in terms of research, we have a lot of sponsored research that Honda does with the Ohio State University, and we also have additional assets that we've placed on campus, and I'm sure Dave will talk about those a little bit more later on in the program. So research is very important, a driving sim lab, a sim center, and we'll talk about those a little bit later. But then secondly is people. And so we have many Ohio State students as interns working at our operations, both in R&D, manufacturing, purchasing, you name it, other areas of our company. And those interns are really great for us. They bring us energy, and we give them real world experience. We don't sit them off in a corner and have them read a book or something like that. They're right in there with us, working on our day-to-day business activities. Another example is capstone projects. It's a really great activity in the Ohio State College of Engineering. And in the senior year, many students do capstone projects, and we give them a business problem to solve. So I'm just curious, Dr. Johnson, I think you heard about some capstone projects this morning. Anything make an impression with you in terms of the capstone area?
Oh, absolutely. I got a chance to meet 2 employees that actually are Ohio State graduates who are mentoring capstone projects. And what was really neat about it is they were given a real world problem. Here's the problem. So you have these big robots, and they come along, and with these suction cups, they pick up your windscreen, and then they put it in the car. Problem is that sometimes those suction cups can fail. And so therefore the machine has to come down. That downtime can cost millions of dollars. So the students were given this real world problem, and they figured out what they should do. They should design replacing all the suction cups and then measure how long before failure, and then come up with an optimum way that by replacing them, predictive maintenance as opposed to time-based maintenance, that they can make a difference and get more uptime for the machines. It was perfect, and they're saving the company money, but more than that, I was surprised that Honda would take an idea from the students and actually implement it on the line. Now that's unique. I have never seen that before of a company so large and so impressive. So it was great, and that was Paige working with Chris, and I got a chance to meet some others too, so it was very fun.
That's great, Dr. Johnson. I'm so glad you got a chance to see that. Probably my favorite personification of a capstone experience is a woman named Samantha Toby. She did a capstone in our Marysville Auto Plant paint department several years ago, and now she's a team leader in that same Marysville Auto Plant paint department, helping us to develop the new paint colors and how we're going to apply those on our future models. You know, we're going to talk a lot about engineering today, but it's really not just engineering. We have Ohio State graduates all over our company in finance area and purchasing area and other areas. And I think it just really drives home the point that the Honda Red has a lot of streaks of scarlet in it.
Well, Rick, I have one question.
Yo.
Are you developing a scarlet paint color? I just got to know. Maybe a little gray metallic stripe there?
You know, I'm glad we're having a good kickoff to our relationship, but I cannot tell you that.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Rick and Dr. Johnson. The Honda-Ohio State partnership can really be categorized into three different themes. It's research and innovation, talent, and community. We're going to talk a little bit about each of those today. So when we talk about the research and innovation component of this relationship, which is a big one and may be the biggest as we sit here today, I'm hoping Dr. Johnson can talk a little bit about the importance of industry-sponsored research and how it has evolved over the years, and also maybe speak to why universities build relationships with companies to be seen as sort of an R&D resource.
Right. So not a lot of people appreciate that The Ohio State University is top 3, top 5 of industry-based research in the whole country. So it's a really big part of what we do. And as a land-grant university, that's exactly what you'd want, because a land-grant university serves those we influence. So we do roughly $160 million a year in that area. We also do about $28 million in research over the 20-year partnership with Honda. So this is really important, and the reason it's important is what better way to prepare your students for their future than to have them solving real-world problems, and they can point to and say, you see that car there, that scarlet color, that was my invention, right? Anyway, very important.
Right. And Dean Williams, much of this research takes place in centers and institutes on campus, and we know that Honda has been instrumental in creating some of these centers and institutes. Can you talk about what some of these centers and institutes are doing and Honda's involvement in them?
Sure, Eddie. I think the quintessential research center that has been set up at Ohio State through Honda's support is our Center for Design and Manufacturing Excellence, or CDME. And just after I arrived here over 9 years ago, Honda came to the college and said, look, we are concerned about the manufacturing capabilities that we're going to need in the 2030s. Every day, Honda turns out about 7,000 automobiles across the nation. And the most cutting edge automobile that's turned out here is the Acura NSX, the supercar. 1 or 2 of those are made every day, and they're handmade because they require advanced manufacturing techniques. And Honda said we need to take those currently handmade automobile manufacturing practices and turn them into practices where we can turn out thousands a day across the nation. And that's what we'll be doing with Honda at CDME. In that particular center, we bring in students from the first year and we introduce them to industrial problems brought not just by Honda, but by many other companies around the nation. And the students put together business plans, research plans, and they develop prototypes on time and under budget. And these are all phrases that are rarely used in academic research. So we teach real-world research at CDME. There are many other centers. Rick mentioned our simulation and modeling center, where we're developing software techniques that might in the end, for example, prevent us having to crash dozens of really good cars in order to determine how these cars react in the case of an accident. So full-scale modeling of very complex aspects of automobile technology. Also our driving simulation lab, again, funded by Honda. Tremendous need today to understand how human beings operate in their cars, particularly when they have one hand on the wheel and the other hand with a cell phone, and trying to manage distracted driving. All of this leading towards safer automobiles. The relationship goes the other way. Honda is opening soon a new antenna facility out at the Transportation Research Center. And faculty from our electroscience lab, world experts in antenna design, have worked with Honda to design that new center. And likewise, the full-scale wind tunnel, also at TRC, which Honda will be opening soon. We have hired faculty, again, to carry out research on Honda facilities out at TRC. So the Honda Ohio State Partnership funds many of these professors right across the College of Engineering, and therefore it supports the teaching of engineering as well as the research of the individual faculty. So you learn also that the partnership with Honda extends beyond the research, but we'll get round to that later. But in terms of an industrial partner in research, Honda is the very best.
And Dave, it sounds like, even selfishly, TRC works with Honda to advance its own capabilities. Rick, do you want to say a couple of things about how that works, how your work with Honda actually makes you better?
Absolutely, and it comes down to one word, and that's collaboration. And it's collaboration on a regular basis for the benefit of our stakeholders. And in reality, those stakeholders are society, because we're talking about innovations and developments that will pay in better safety, in more comfort. The list goes on and on. I think most recently we talked about etching out a part of the 4,500 acres at Transportation Research Center to create a 540 acre, we call it the Smart Center. It's our automated and connected vehicle test center. And so in working TRC and working with our partners at Jobs Ohio, the Ohio State University, as well as the Ohio Department of Transportation, we're able to bring this online, create this 540 acre test center, and now we're testing tomorrow's technologies today in that connected and automated environment. We also continue to morph our business model to meet the future needs of government, industry, and academia. And so we work closely with Honda in that regard. Dave's already mentioned the creation of what I consider best-in-class, world-class aeroacoustic wind tunnel, which is now located at TRC. Rick, I mean, from my standpoint, we get to work together on a regular basis. Maybe you'd like to add to what I've said.
Yeah, thanks, Brett. And this will sound like I'm pulling rank on my fellow panelists here, but I was hired at Honda in November of 1987, and our purchase of the TRC closed 2 months later in January of 1988. So I have seen this partnership involving TRC from the very outset. And really, as we talk about the Honda and Ohio State partnership, I look at TRC as being the nucleus of that partnership. It's what brought us together, and in a large part, it's what's keeping us together, the TRC operations are. Deb already mentioned in her opening remarks the circumstances where Honda located here in the late 1970s and started with the motorcycle plant across the street in 1979. As a predecessor to that, our founder, Mr. Soichiro Honda, was here in Ohio, and he took a helicopter ride with then Governor James A. Rhodes. And I'm sure when they flew over this site that we're on right now, Mr. Honda's eyes got very wide when he saw that Transportation Research Center sitting in the middle of that property. And it was 10 years later, as I said, in 1988, that we bought the TRC, along with the land that enabled us to erect our East Liberty plant on this same site. The TRC itself, it was a multi-user facility when we purchased it, and we've maintained it as a multi-user facility. I think from Deb's point of view, the economic development impact and the asset that TRC is for this region and for the state is significant, and Lieutenant Governor mentioned it also in his opening remarks. Having the TRC here has enabled us to grow our R&D operations here in the state of Ohio. It's a world-class proving ground, and as Brett just mentioned, it's evolving as technology evolves, and by the way, it's under great leadership with Mr. Rubinick.
Great, thanks, Rick. Dr. Johnson, you obviously had a really impressive career in higher education and in the government. You've seen a lot of examples of partnerships. Can you talk about what you think sets this partnership apart and how it compares to some things that you might have seen before?
Well, thanks, Eddie. I have worked at several universities, great universities. Left the best for last, and I will say that my experience in these universities has taught me that this is an ideal partnership because it has collaboration, as we heard, as its cornerstone. I think the main thing you want in an industrial university partnership is you want to make that transition from the classroom to impact at the company as short as possible. And that's what you do here. And so how do you do that? You have cross-disciplinary programs. You fund capstone design classes that include business as well as engineers. You bring real-world problems that have to be solved within the constraints of cost and other things that we never consider usually at a university. We're always thinking about the theoretical. But engineering, as Bill Wolf said, who's head of the National Academy, is designed under constraint. And that's what these partnerships allow us to do, is our students teach that design under constraints of time and cost, environment, and other social opportunities.
Right. Well, it's a good transition to our next area, which is the impact of the relationship on talent and the community. And obviously the partnership has really fueled a strong talent pipeline for Honda in the region, and has also had some special attention to the diversity of that talent pipeline. So maybe over to Deb, again, from an economic development standpoint, the importance of this partnership on that talent development for the region.
Yeah, thanks, Eddie. We work with hundreds of companies, and consistently the most important item that companies say, the most important thing in any company is their workforce. And so these partnerships, specifically with Honda and Ohio State, they really allow curriculum to be taught at the university, to offer co-ops and internships that then the company itself can utilize to make sure that everything is moving up towards their ideal associate. And then they make sure that with the co-ops and the internships that, if the associate is a good fit to carry on with the company after graduation. We talked a little bit about the capstone project and the fact that it allows students to really tackle real world problems and challenges and then present those solutions to the company for potential implementation. And the other thing is from a talent perspective in this relationship, it's not just engineering. This partnership allows for access to multi-disciplines, and that's really important for the company as a whole. Rick, how do you view the partnership from a talent perspective?
Sure, thanks, Deb. Yeah, well, very simply, Ohio State nurtures talented students, and we want them to come to Honda. For our part, we use our resources to enhance what OSU is teaching. Could be something as simple as providing a robot for a manufacturing lab on campus, which of course we've done. But then, as Dean Williams mentioned, the transportation endowments have now grown to more than $54 million, and that is significant resource for our mission of cultivating the next generation of workers in this technical fields. The industries that Honda is in, the mobility industry, is changing very, very quickly. Electrified, connected, automated vehicles. Those new technologies require new thinking and new ideas, and that's what we're looking for the next generation of Honda associates to be working on. In addition, we have a special emphasis in the partnership on supporting diverse student populations at Ohio State, and we're doing that in a variety of ways. We provide support for the Louis Stokes Alliance for Minority Participation and also the Ohio State student chapter of the National Society for Black Engineers. But my favorite activity that we're doing in this area is Honda Associates, who are directly mentoring diverse students at Ohio State. But you know, I think I'm out of my lane here. Who am I to be talking about educating young people? We have the dean here. So Dave, what do you think about experiential learning?
Thank you, Rick. And yes, you've already taken all my major points, but let me repeat them in the best educational manner. No, truly, as a university, as a College of Engineering, we are in the education business. It is our job to educate young minds, to teach critical thinking, and also to give them the experience that will be valuable to them when they graduate from the university. And you've heard multiple times now about Honda's role as a sort of lab for these students to sample the real world so they understand why we teach them differential equations and why we teach them thermodynamics, because they need that knowledge when they get out here. So that experiential education is totally brought into by Honda, and the students who come here have an extraordinary relationship. As Rick mentioned, Honda also recognizes, as we do, that diverse students and diverse researchers come up with diverse solutions to problems. And Honda's commitment to diversity is mirrored by our own commitment to diversify our student body as well as our staff and our faculty. One of the most fun times that I and Rick have every year is back in the old days when we didn't have to wear these and we could actually stand next to one another. We would go and listen to the 125 students talk about their capstone design courses. There'd be groups of 4 or 5 students, and not just engineers, business majors, design majors coming together to solve a whole group of real world problems that Honda brings to the table, from the use of algae for fuels to welding engineering. And just to watch these young men and women come out with their descriptions of the problems, and then coming to the plant here and seeing how from a few capstones ago, these young men and women are now part of Honda addressing those problems and solving them in real time. So as Rick mentioned, this happens not just in the College of Engineering, but across the university in the Fisher College of Business and elsewhere. And the Scholars Program that Honda funds truly changes the lives of well over 100 students every year, as well as some of our own internal projects, particularly our motorsports teams, where our students build cars from scratch, the renowned Buckeye Bullet, the fastest electric car in the world, the Eco Car competition funded by the Department of Energy, which we have won 6 times, 6 national championships for the Eco Car team. That's better than most. I could go on forever because I'm a dean and I can talk forever. However, let me just finish by saying that you've got the message now that our students and our faculty and our staff grow themselves because of the investment of Honda and the availability of TRC to transform lives. Thank you, Rick, and thank you, Brett, for all that you do. And Deb, thank you for the economic development that drives this whole operation.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. And you know, we mentioned when you think about TRC, you know, Rick, Brett, are there elements of TRC that also kind of fuel that talent pipeline, or at least provide opportunities for students to engage there?
Absolutely, and I think that every day at TRC is a little bit like talking about younger folks. When I see Dave grab his longboard, his ocean spray, and vibe out to some Fleetwood Mac as he goes across campus, that is every day at TRC. You know, Rick mentioned connected, automated, shared, and electrified, all new world type approaches. And so we're very fortunate, as Rick mentioned, about Honda being fortunate in that the Ohio State University is producing the folks who are solving those problems. We bring in a crop every year as interns, and we try and retain and nurture and grow those folks to meet those connected, automated, shared, and electrified issues for industry, government, and academia.
That's great. So we've used the word talent. We've used the word talent pipeline. We've heard workforce development, and often workforce development is not necessarily talked about at institutions of higher education, four-year institutions in particular. Dr. Johnson, how does a partnership like this influence how a place like Ohio State thinks about workforce development and the different types of initiatives that come along with that category?
Right. Well, thanks, Eddie. I think that this is the kind of partnership that can start to think about the workforce of the future because of what it's done in the past. And when we think about the workforce of the future, you know, when I was an engineer going to school, it was enough just to know your own discipline. As long as you knew how to solve a particular problem in, I'm an electrical engineer, so signal processing, you would get out, you get a job. Today, that's not enough because the systems are so complex, and you have to know how one part influences the performance of the whole. So I think that what this kind of relationship does is allows our students to see beyond just their narrow discipline. And that means just not only beyond their engineering discipline, but as Deb said, beyond all disciplines, because what they do in the engineering world also has an impact on the cost. And also from a workforce development, our world is diversifying. Every day our country becomes more and more diverse. And therefore we have to, in particular, our field of engineering has not always been the most diverse. So leaders like Dave are really focused on how do we diversify the engineering discipline so that more people can enjoy the joy that we've experienced and also the well-paying jobs that come with that. And I think that's a matter of really social justice, to be honest.
Thank you. All right, we've talked about research. We've talked about the impact that this partnership has had on talent development, workforce development. Let's talk about what's next for the partnership. Where are we going with this? How much more can we get done through working together? Rick, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, thanks, Eddie. Well, first and foremost, the partnership is very personal to me. We're here celebrating today the 20-year anniversary of the Memorandum of Understanding, and I can tell you firsthand that a lot of blood, sweat, and tears went into that creation of that Memorandum of Understanding back in the year 2000. And we updated that MOU again 5 years ago, and again, more blood, sweat, and tears at that point in time. You know, as we've talked about today, technology, the business environment, society, they're all changing very, very rapidly. And I think to succeed in the future, Honda and OSU need to stay in partnership for sure. I'm absolutely for sure about that. But I think we need to work even more closely with other business entities, other governmental entities to really multiply the value of this work and multiply the value of this partnership. And really that's a big reason for this event, to make sure that the other stakeholders are aware that we're committed as partners far into the future. As I look down the road, I wonder about economic development, so maybe I'll ask Deb, how do you see the future for economic development in this region, and selfishly, how will that impact Honda?
Well, we always have Honda in mind, Rick, but a vibrant region is really critical to continued attraction and retention of top talent, which is really important to Honda. It's important from the production floor all the way to top level management. It's not a secret, you've alluded to it already, the automotive industry is in a disruptive, transformative period. And technology plays an ever increasing importance in the industry and the expertise that's developed and grown here. Continued investment and growth in assets and infrastructure are key. The most comprehensive mobility ecosystem is being built here in the Columbus region. So from TRC to the 35 stretch of the 33 Smart Mobility Corridor, connected Marysville, connected Dublin, and down to Smart Columbus. This ecosystem is really playing a vital role in Honda's future developments. And this isn't only impacting the future, but also impacting Honda, but also the automotive and the mobility industry as a whole, as more participants begin to utilize the infrastructure.
Okay. Thanks, Deb. You know, I have an interesting role at the university in my office because I've got one foot in the community and industry and one foot on campus. And as I talk to our industry partners and our economic development partners, there seems to be an increasing expectation about what higher ed should be producing. You know, they want us to be responsive, they want us to be agile, they want us to be reliable partners. Dr. Johnson, like, what do you think of that expectation? Is it realistic, and can we accommodate these sort of increased expectations that our partners have from us?
That's a good question, Eddie. It is realistic because it's reality. Again, when I was going out and looking at my first position, it was all about IQ and not about EQ. And I think there's an expectation now that the individuals that come into a company share the same values. They share the same ethics and integrity. So those are things that we believe in, and we believe that the university has a role in teaching. I think also technically, with the ubiquity, the thing that's changed over 20 to 40 years is the ubiquity of sensors and the computational capabilities of computers. Now we're able to do things with machine learning and augmented intelligence, which I saw today on the manufacturing floor, that you couldn't even imagine 40 years ago when I was graduating from college. So these are the kind of expectations that we need to continually reevaluate, revise, and teach to our students.
Thank you. You know, we've got a couple extra minutes. Does anyone else have opinions about those expectations and how either industry or universities, a place like Ohio State, can react or should react? Dave, Deb?
Go ahead, Deb.
Yeah.
I would just comment, based off our experience in the economic development area, partnerships between the companies and the universities, and when you can align those common goals is when you win.
Yeah.
And
Good
so
point.
that's where we're going, that's where the future is headed, and that's the expectation.
Good. Thanks for that. Good. Dave, any?
The future will be driven by the young minds that we and many other universities produce across the country. They come with a different mindset to, likewise, when I graduated from university, they come with a different view of the world, they come with different skill sets, and it is our job to ensure that those unique aspects of their intellect are directed to address the problems of society. And mobility is one of the greatest problems that we face in society, the ability for everybody to be mobile to the extent that they need be. And as Deb said, this ecosystem here is so well suited to that, and we are privileged at Ohio State to have those partnerships into which we can send our students so they will change the world, and that's the future.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, Eddie, I really liked what Dr. Johnson had to say about, first of all, how more complex our world is today than the world that we grew up in, and how we need broad thinking, but also in terms of working with partners, working with others, having ourselves aligned ethically. It's a really good point. I think society expects more out of businesses and corporations these days than they were 30 or 40 years ago, and I think the point that Dr. Johnson makes applies very well to us as a corporation as well. So we don't learn about that well or understand that well unless we're out connecting and talking to our colleagues at the university and understanding what young minds are thinking and so forth. So there's great benefit to us there as well.
Yeah, that engagement's definitely important, and all of you should be proud that you all do that well. And I think the relationship in the university and Honda and TRC and our economic prosperity will be grateful for that. So thank you all for taking the time for this important conversation. 20 years is a long time. It's an awesome partnership, and I think this was a an appropriate way to recognize that. To our virtual audience, thank you for tuning in today. Again, the diversity of our audience from a lot of our different stakeholders is much appreciated. Tomorrow, everyone that registered will be getting an impact report highlighting some of the things that we talked about today. That will be available if you don't get the email at honda.osu.edu. And again, we'll be sending out a link with access to that impact report. I also want to note the fact that our public office leaders, our elected leaders, are recognizing this partnership. We have some official proclamations today from the governor's office, the Ohio Senate, and the Ohio House that recognize the partnership. And again, for both organizations, I know we're grateful to have that statewide elected leader support. So thank you for the time today, and have a tremendous rest of the week.